New York Congressman Lee Zeldin is with us. So your reaction now, the president says, yeah, investigate a potential lab leak. Dr. Fauci and the media downplayed that. Washington Post reporter and columnist Josh Rogan saying Dr. Fauci and the NIH are actually stonewalling probes into what the NIH and the NIAID were doing. What's your take on all of this?
For one, the American people want answers. So this is a theory that has been discussed since the beginning of the outbreak, and it always made sense to many, whether they were in Congress or amongst the American public. It was also clear that there was a big motivation not to have eyes on the origins of COVID-19 because it would distract from the ability to place all the blame on President Trump. And the reality is that one of the best ways to prevent a pandemic is early detection, and that was sacrificed here. It was clear that the World Health Organization was parroting CCP talking points. And the American public to this day, we want answers. We want to learn lessons and make sure this never happens again.
Yeah, but Vanity Fair is reporting there's a big gain-of-function supervirus bureaucracy in the government. You have that going on, right? And then you had Livermore National Labs saying, yeah, investigate it. It's plausible. Dozens of scientists from Harvard, from Stanford University, from around the world say, investigate it. Let's listen to the former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, on this. Watch this.
We have a really good idea what happened here. There is an enormous amount of evidence that there was a leak from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. There's a pile of evidence 100 feet high. I have high confidence that that's the case. We pressed the Chinese Communist Party really hard, not just the State Department, but our CDC and others too. We withdrew from the WHO, which become politicized. This administration chose to get back in that. I don't know what tools they think they're going to use.
Former FDA Director Scott Gottlieb said Dr. Fauci in the spring of last year did brief world health leaders that it might have leaked from the Wuhan lab. But then he's flip-flopping. Now he's saying on a podcast with Chelsea Clinton that he is the object, quote, of a phenomenal amount of hostility merely for promoting fundamental, simple public health principles. So people are getting really angry with Dr. Fauci. We're showing now his flip-flops and his confusing statements on camera right now. Your reaction to what he is now saying?
My background's the military, and one of the characteristics of leadership that we look for is consistency. And the fact that Dr. Fauci had flip-flopped on so many different issues is one where there's been an erosion of trust and respect. This isn't an attack on science when there's a call for accountability and transparency. It's a call for answers and accountability after everything that we've been impacted. Secretary Pompeo, he is someone who was the CIA director. He was the Secretary of State. This isn't somebody from outside of government with access to that evidence. He's speaking from experience of someone who was part of this, living through it throughout 2020 as a member of the administration. As members of Congress, we want Dr. Fauci to just come clean and answer questions with regards to the emails, which have now been released, which show that he was giving Congress and the American public one narrative while going with a different narrative. Lastly, I would say, all of the faith that Dr. Fauci puts in the scientists in China to be honest and transparent, we can't ignore the reality, as we've seen play out here, going back to the origins of the outbreak, that these Chinese scientists have an incredible amount of fear with putting out anything that is contrary to the Chinese Communist Party's their narrative. And if they say something that the government doesn't like, there's very severe consequences. So even if there are good people who are scientists at the lab, there are huge consequences for them going against the Chinese government. Last week, Secretary Blinken was in front of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, which I'm a member of. I asked him, what are the consequences if we don't have access to Wuhan? What's the next step? And I didn't get a clear answer. I don't know if they've even planned out that far of what to do when China obviously isn't going to give us that access.
Congressman Lee Zeldin, thanks for joining us. Come back soon.